Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new real-life car review. I've been looking forward to this episode for the reason that I'm driving the all-new Lexus LBX. It's a complete new model line and it's the smallest Lexus ever to go on sale. It's been designed with the European and Japanese market in mind, but it's also on sale in Australia and, if I'm not mistaken, in New Zealand. But this car won't be coming to North America or Canada. And that's the reason why I want to deviate from my regular schedule of a real-life car review and do a walk around and talk a little bit about the designs, because you all Americans and Canadians won't get this car, and a lot of my viewers come from North America and Canada. So without any further ado, I'll grab my action cam and we'll do a quick walk around. So let us start with the front end, which I think is the best part of this car. Yeah, it's got a completely new Lexus face. As you can see that the hood drooping down quite deep, and then there's this chrome bit that connects the headlights. It's not illuminated. A lot of brands are doing that nowadays and I think it looks a bit cheesy. And when you look at the grille, yeah, this is what the spindle grille has evolved into. The spindle grille, yeah, was somewhat controversial. Not everybody liked it. I never had much problems with it, but since the RZ and the Lexus RX of the current generation, yeah, this is more of a rudimentary shape. It's reminiscent of the spindle grille, but this is Lexus grille new style. I like it. I like the coloring that they did and the pattern. There's the radar. We have a small camera for the round view system, which I'll show you later. And those headlights are single lens headlights, and even the brochure, even though the brochure doesn't state it specifically, they are adaptive high beams and they are pretty good. And when you look up close, yeah, it's hard to catch on camera, but you can see all those tiny little segments that are used for the adaptive high beams. And I tested the car yesterday evening during a night drive and it works really well. The Mazda MX-30 REV had very good headlights, and these are in the same class. Let me switch on the car for a moment, or switch on the lights. And we're back. Now to give you a demonstration. This upper part is the daytime running light, and it's, yeah, small. You have these huge daytime running lights nowadays, but I think this is a touch of class that they have these modest daytime running lights. And we still have the Lexus swoosh, but it's upside down nowadays, and it also acts as the front indicator. It's very bright, but I think this is a nice touch. Very well done, Lexus. As said, the Lexus LBX operates in the B SUV segment, and that's a highly competitive market segment. There are very few high-end, or for lack of a better word, premium cars in that segment. From the side view, I think the LBX looks very generic, and that goes for all models in that marketing segment. But yeah, some people do want a more introvert design. They don't want a screaming design, and to be successful, yeah, you have to blend in somewhat with what the market and the customer wants. The LBX is based on the Toyota Yaris Cross. It's a highly successful car, but Lexus made a lot of changes. They really Lexified it, especially the suspension. Have a quick look at the wheels. The car comes in two wheel sizes. The base model has 17-inch wheels, and the base model also gets normal cloth upholstery. And then they are in trim levels. They are what Lexus called atmospheres, and those are more of styling packages. But anyway, this is the first atmosphere that's available, and it rolls on these beautiful 18-inch wheels. We have a nice chunky sidewall. I like that. Does a lot of good for the ride comfort and the Lexus signature drive, but I'll discuss that in the drive segment. But these are, yeah, gunmetal gray. They have somewhat of a chrome hue to them. I like this really much. Now, as said, it is based on the Toyota Yaris Cross, but the suspension already is changed. The drivetrain is partially the same. I'm gonna get back to that in the under the hood segment. But what Lexus has done, and that shows that they really did not cheap out on this, is they incorporated the e-Latch system. So that works with a push of a button, and for emergency cases you can pull it. You have to pull it twice. And there is also an emergency lever over here in the front section to open the door. Yeah, this is a completely different system, so they just did not use the door and inner door structure of the Toyota model, but they added Lexus specific technology to this. There's only one chrome strip above the windows, and to get the illusion of a floating roof, it's something we have seen since the previous generation of the Lexus RX. They made a third window, but this is a plastic cover panel. Only question I have with this is, after a while, when you go to a lot of car washes, this plastic might scratch and the windows won't scratch. So yeah, over time this may show that this is a plastic cover panel. But that's something for the future. We can't judge that. Maybe it's very scratch resistant. Okay, then on to the rear. Well, it's, yeah, you could argue it's a bit nondescript, but it does have the connected line and the typical layout, the L that you see on other Lexuses, with a Lexus script spaced out. LBX, it says there. Yeah, it's very introvert, I would say, but that's what a lot of people like. And also one thing that I noticed, that's something you maybe don't know, or I didn't show that in the Toyota Yaris review, but the rear window, actually the glass part which you can see through, that is transparent, is very narrow. But on this car, the rear window glass, which is transparent, is actually quite wide, and I like that. And of course, shark fin antenna. But I like this part of the car. It's a true Lexus. It's stylish. We continue our walk around. Yeah, I like this color too. As said, there are several atmospheres which are basically styling packages. This is the first one that you can choose. It's the cheapest one, and in terms of price, the atmospheres are pretty close together. This has a uniform color. That means that the roof and the A-pillars and the rear spoiler have the body color, and in other atmospheres you can get two-tone where you have a black roof. I'll blend in the name of this color, this blue color. I think it's a pretty classy, very nice looking color for the LBX. Anyway, what do you guys think of the styling of the LBX? Let me know down below in the comments. And now we'll have a peek under the hood. Alrighto guys, let's pop the hood and see what lives underneath here. There's the latch. The hood is actually really light. It's aluminium. There are no gas struts, so we have to do with a hood prop. And another thing that's missing is a battery, at least 12-volt battery. I didn't notice it in the Yaris test. If there actually was a battery or not, coming to think of it. But in this car, the 12-volt battery lives under the rear seat together with the hybrid battery. The hybrid battery in this car is a bipolar nickel metal hydrate, so it's not a lithium ion, and that is a new development from Lexus, and they chose that technology because it allows for faster charging and decharging, and it can supply more power and quicker than a lithium ion battery, Lexus says. Another difference is that it doesn't say Toyota on the valve cover. There is a sticker on here with Lexus. That looks a bit cheap. 3D logo on here would be nice, but yeah, you still have all those wire and line spaghetti over here. It doesn't matter. A regular user, a normal user, rarely has to look underneath here. As said, this engine is the exact same engine as in the Toyota Yaris and Yaris Cross, at least the hybrid 130 horsepower version. But in this car, and I think it has something to do with the battery technology, the power output is 136 horsepower. And I haven't found any torque numbers, but I'm going to assume that it has the exact same torque of 185 Newton meters. Yeah, other than that, there's a lot to see here, but nothing to worry about. I do notice that the wipers are different. There is a heated section over here in the windscreen, and that the washers are incorporated in the arms, and here are the nozzles, so it sprays directly on the wipers. So when you're driving through town, or you have a motorcyclist driving behind you and you want to spray and wash the windscreen, you can do so without overspraying every bystander or traffic and other vehicles that are following behind you. That's a nice Lexus touch. They completely changed the technology. And also, I read in an interview with the chief engineer of the LBX project, and he said that the hardest part in developing this car was to get the noise, vibration and harshness up to Lexus standards. It's a small car, it's a relatively light car, so that has an effect on the ride and handling, but also to get the engine and sound insulation and the sound penetration into the interior to Lexus standard. That was quite difficult, or one of the most difficult jobs. They did a good job, however. I'll tell you about that in the drive segment, but I think they've done a lot of changes to the engine mounts and the noise insulation over there, but at first glance you don't see a lot of differences with the Yaris and Yaris Cross Hybrid 130 versions. That being said, I'm gonna close up the hood and we'll have a peek in the cargo area. Normally I'll write down all the specifications so I can tell you, looking like it's coming from the top of my head. Something I forgot, that are the specifications of the cargo area. But it does have an electric trunk opener, and as with the Lexus ES, it opens really smooth. So by the power of editing, I'll blend in the specifications of the trunk over here, and that's with a rear seat in position, and of course with a rear seat down, so you have the full cargo capacity. There is a deep trunk floor. It's not a two-level trunk floor, at least not in this atmosphere. And there's a thin foldable cargo floor, and there's only room for very tiny things over here. The tire repair kit is under here, and there are no pockets towards the sides. There are however hooks to tie down something, but I must say that the fit and finish, at least the finish and the materials used in this trunk, are up to Lexus standard. It looks really nice. And also the partial shelf, you can take it out. It's a thin one, and you can pull this out, pull it out. It folds, so you can make it as compact as you want. And I also see a power outlet, a 12-volt outlet in that corner over there, and it's illuminated with a tiny LED. Anywho, let's put this back in place, and we'll have a thorough look in the interior, because that's one of the surprising parts of this car. Okay, getting in the LBX. Put the action cam aside for a minute. The first thing you notice when you get in the LBX is the quality of the materials, the fit and finish, and the build quality. When you're entering this car, you're entering a real Lexus. When you glance over it, look at the top of the dashboard, nice material. This is all leather-like. In this atmosphere, it's the entry-level atmosphere, as Lexus calls it. You get synthetic leather, but in the higher atmospheres you get genuine leather and suede or microfiber. Steering wheel, put your hands on this, it feels like genuine leather. It's really soft to the touch. I really like the feel of this. Let me get my action cam so I can show you around. We have a digital gauge cluster. In fact, it's the same system that Toyota utilizes now in all their models, and you can configure this to your heart's content. I have it set with the tachometer in the middle and some additional information towards the sides. Over here we have the driver monitoring system. That's standard on all LBXs. I used to think of these systems as a pain in the butt, but I think they are already improving this. This system only issues a warning when you're really distracted. In other cars I want to turn it out because it beeps all the time. Even when you approach an intersection, look in the mirror, the thing starts to beep, telling you to watch a look ahead. Not the case in this car, no complaints about that. I do have complaints about the buttons on the steering wheel. These are the same unmarked buttons you have as in the Lexus NX and RX. I'll leave a link up here on the screen here. Problem is you don't see the function. They have a double function. If you push this button, it changes, and it only shows the function in the head-up display when you're wearing your sunglasses. In my case, I have polarized sunglasses. I can't see the head-up display. I have to tilt my head and then I can see it. And over here, ooh, the camera can't pick this up. There it says Mark Levinson. This car has the optional Mark Levinson audio system. I'll blink the price in screen. Trust me, it's worth its money. Sound quality is tremendous in this car. You crank up the volume and listen to a concert or to music. The sound image it's just great. It's not as good as in the RX, but it has everything to do with the interior volume of this car and the size of the doors and the location to put speakers. It has less speakers, but I believe it still has 18 speakers. The sound quality is great. If you're somewhat of an audiophile, get the Mark Levinson system. So have a look at the materials over here. The dashboard, the top of the dash, you can see it's really soft. Everything is padded. Also over here where you can lean your knee onto, that's padded, nice grain material, and yeah, a matte finish. The only gloss area is this where you have the physical buttons for the climate control. And yeah, there is not a lot of room for storage. There's a cup holder over here, and we have a small area over here. You can slide this back and slide it further, then it opens, and there is the second cup holder. Done it nice, but yeah, it's a very narrow center console, and there is not a lot of room for storage. However, underneath here in the center section is a pocket where you can put your stuff. Wireless phone charger, and that's my sunglasses because there is no cubby for my sunglasses. And also this Atmosphere does not have sunroof, moonroof, sliding roof. And this is the well-known gear selector that you see in other Lexuses. It does not have a sport mode. It does have an eco mode, and I think that's a good choice. And we have a USB data connection, USB-C data connection, and charger, and a button for the camera. Has a nice high resolution, so I'm gonna close the door for a minute so it doesn't disturb the view. But you have this view, so we can have a look around the car. Push that button, front view over the wheels, and from a driver perspective. Oh wait, let me put the car in drive. No call for this image. You get this nice surround view. You can select, and when the car rolls you can see the road appear underneath the car. Oh yeah, let's give that a try. It doesn't matter. You can see, you know, you can see what's living underneath the car. Anyway, quality of the materials is great. Nice seats. Said this is synthetic leather. I do like this color. They are mechanical, and I must say the first time I got home in this car I wanted to get out, so I put my seat belt off, power the car off, and I waited for the seat to slide back and the steering wheel to retract as other Lexuses do. That's how much of a Lexus this smaller car feels. But unfortunately I have a mechanical seat adjustment. It does have a lumbar support, that's electric, but the height and sliding and reclining all is mechanical, and yeah, as is the steering wheel. I must say the adjustability of the steering wheel, the range, the telescoping function, and the seat is great. A real tall and large person can find a good seating position in this car, as do much smaller people. Anyway, that's everything I have to say about the front passenger compartment. Let's head over to the rear and see what life is like for the rear passengers. Let's see if I can sit behind myself. The seat itself in relation to the floor is nice and high, but the interior for the rear passenger is quite basic. There are reading lights. They are nice centered in this light. But yeah, the seat backs themselves are synthetic leather, or the same leather material. So there is no compartment over here. It's very plain, and there are only two. I think they are USB-C outlets over here, and there is a pocket however in the passenger seat. I do not have an armrest or anything. I do have the e-Latch door system and the electric door locking mechanism and an auto function. When you look at the materials of the door, they are different than in the front. This is a harder plastic, but you get a nice leather-like material over here. It's basic, but the materials used are nice. And this is the view towards the outside. There you are. Yeah, that's good. Basic, but this is what you may expect in this size and class of vehicle. They aren't the roomiest in the rear, but the seating comfort, however, is good. So let's head out for a drive. Just a week ago, I drove the Yaris hybrid 130 horsepower on the exact same roads, and I'm driving with the new Lexus LBX, and you can immediately tell there is a huge difference, especially in terms of noise and noise insulation. May have the exact same drivetrain, albeit with a little bit extra horsepower, but this engine is so much quieter than this car. So the things that Lexus did to the noise insulation in the engine, and I suppose with the engine mounts, has a huge effect on this car and the interior noise. You really have to be under hard acceleration to hear the engine, and only then it's audible in the background and it sounds different. And I think that has everything to do with the exhaust tuning and some changes to the intake perhaps. It sounds different, it's less of a mechanical noise, and what you hear just sounds nice. It's really Lexus worthy, even though it's merely a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder. Same goes for the road, tire and suspension noise, wind noise. This car is so much quieter than the Yaris is, and you didn't hear me complain in the Yaris about noise and noise insulation, but there is a huge difference between that Lexus and the Yaris, which share the same platform. And speaking of platform, I have to get back to the remark of the chief engineer in the interview, where he said that the hardest part was to get the LBX up to Lexus specification when it comes to noise, vibration, harshness, and most likely the Lexus signature drive. I think they've done a tremendous job. Let me start with one remark that I have on the suspension tuning. When you have a repair that runs across the road, or when you go over an expansion joint on bridges and overpasses, there can be somewhat of a harsh thump in the front axle, but that has everything to do with the weight of this car. They could suppress those thumps a bit more when the car was a bit heavier, but they had to make this car work and handle at all other driving circumstances. So that's the small bit of change, little bit of a trade-off they had to deal with. Oh, I have to slow down here for a bridge. Anyway, I was talking about the suspension of this car. So on repair joints it can be a bit harsh, but I think they had done a good job in incorporating the Lexus signature drive in this car. Now that may sound a little bit of a fake term, but in theory is that they smoothened off the sharp edges that the agile and nimble Toyota platforms have nowadays. So if you have the Yaris or Yaris Cross and you steer in, you have an immediate response. The steering is direct, the suspension has very little time to load up, and the car responds immediately. There's very little body roll. It's very immediate all in all. And when you would go zigzag with the steering wheel, you would swaying your head left and right. Of course, that's something you cannot have in a Lexus. So what Lexus did, the steering appears to be a little bit less direct, so a bit slower. And of course, we do have these nice sidewalls on those 18-inch wheels tires. That takes off the sharp edges of those immediate responses that Toyota has. So we have my favorite speed bump over here. Do a small test, slow down a bit. It's very adequate. You could hear a little thump in the rear axle, but that was me driving a little bit too fast. I do not have complaints about the suspension, about the harshness. As said, this is a light car, and they had to work with that, and I think they have done a good job. Other Lexuses can be heavier and they tend to be a bit floaty. That comes with Lexus, and despite the fact they are a bit floaty, you have a lot of control in the steering wheel. The steering, the power assist is very light, but it's not fake or indirect. The one thing that you do miss in Lexus, the regular Lexus, so the non-F Sport versions, is the feedback in the steering. You have very little to non-feedback in the steering wheel, but it allows you to position the car very precisely on the road. Another thing that I need to point out, and that's one of the big differences with its Toyota counterparts, this infotainment system is largely the same, but in the Lexus the lower section of the screen is reserved for the climate control. So there's a temperature indicator, heated seat, heated steering wheel controls are over there, and also there is a small button, an icon with 6 square dots, and when you push that, it shows you a lot of settings for the head-up display and also for the safety and driver aid systems. But in its very first screen, it collects the most used buttons, and in my case that's a lane departure warning and the traffic sign recognition. So you start the car and immediately on the shortcuts I can switch off those systems so I don't get beeped at all the time while driving. And as I said in the interior segment, this driver monitoring system works really well. I have complained a lot about that, and so do my colleagues, and that's the same for other cars. But these systems appear to be improving pretty fast, and I do hope it's all a software setting where you can implement it on other Lexuses too, where I used to complain about. But with the software update, you get a more adequate and accurate driver monitoring system. And as I mentioned in the under the hood segment, it uses a different battery technology that allows for a little bit more engine power. I think it's really hard to distinguish those 6 extra horsepower. The torque number is the same, but when you want to, you floor it, there's the response. There is a little bit delay, that's different than in the Toyota counterparts, but there's plenty of torque. It smoothens out all the movements and actions of the car. Well, let me go this way so I can give way to this big truck. While I was doing that and maneuvering it, when you put the car in reverse, the door mirrors fold down so we have a nice view alongside the car. I said I hold my commercial driving license, so I'm used driving backwards on mirrors, and I love that function really much. It also has a fantastic surround view monitor, as I showed you, but I do like the fact that Lexus incorporated the tilting function for the door mirrors. Good thing. So you may have gathered by now that I'm really convinced that this is a true Lexus, and I personally wouldn't mind owning this car. Now this may be the entry-level atmosphere. I like the styling, I like these interior colors, I like the single-tone exterior color plus the body paint. It's a great car. It's fairly light, so that counts for the road taxes over here. I'll blink the weight and the translation in screen here. It's a light and nimble car, but at the same time it offers a lot of ride comfort apart from the points I just mentioned. Anyway, we have to talk about the engine performance. As said, you've seen that there's plenty of power, there's plenty of torque, the engine is quiet. Then there is fuel economy, but this car only has 1,600 kilometers on the odometer, and the average fuel consumption it shows at this moment is 5.4 liters per 100 kilometers. That's not half bad. If I were to be able to reset it and do my own measurements, I think I would get to 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers. I think that's realistically something you can expect with the Lexus LBX. As I said in the introduction, I was really looking forward to test driving this car. I mean, I'm a fan of the brand, started this whole YouTube adventure, and also Lexus enters a completely new market segment which is highly competitive. Only there are not many competitors in the high-end B SUV segment, maybe a few Germans. The car convinced me when I used the Lexus yardstick in the fact that it's a true Lexus. When you look at the ride and handling, the dynamics of the car, the build quality of the interior, it oozes Lexus to me. So in that respect it's very convincing, even despite the fact it uses the Yaris Cross platform. They've made so many changes, it's so obvious they put a lot of effort and a lot of money in developing this car, and to me it pays off. It really shows. It's a completely different car than the Yaris Cross. Actually no need to mention this car because they've made so many changes. Only the drivetrain is almost exactly the same, but when you're driving the car, the entire driving experience is very different. But makes me very curious to see how this car will do on the European market. It's highly competitive, as said, and this car is on the more expensive side of things. But on the other hand, the Yaris Cross, you can add luxury and trim levels also to the 40,000 euro mark. This car, as tested, is a little over 40,000 euros, and the other atmospheres that replace the usual trim levels are very comparable in price. And also another thing that I like about this atmosphere idea is that the standard equipment of all of them is very complete. All the safety systems are there, all the luxury is there. I mean, you have heated seats, you have a head-up display, very advanced surround view monitor, you have the adaptive headlights. Everything that makes this car in a luxury car, and all the creature comforts that you use on a daily basis are there. It's very well equipped, and there's nothing there that you pay for and you'll actually never use. There's one thing that I really want to recommend, and that's the Mark Levinson audio system. But as said, I'm really curious to see how this car is received in Europe, in Japan, and in the Australian and New Zealand market. And I think it's a bit of a pity that this car isn't on sale in North America and Canada. I saw a lot of other reviews on American review channels where they tested cars that would be classified as B segment SUVs, so the subcompact crossovers, that did remarkably good in those tests. So I think it has a fighting chance on the North American market, but we'll see. If you American viewers like this car, go run to your Lexus dealer and demand you get the LBX. You won't be disappointed. With that being said, I want to end this real-life car review. I hope you liked following me along, and if you did, let me know by subscribing to my channel, put on notifications, give me a like, and if you have any questions or constructive feedback, let me know down below in the comment section. And also, if you want to help out the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I'll leave the link also in the description box. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you on the next one. Bye.